Welcome back to Breaking Down Storage Tech. Today we're breaking down a 10 item a slice chest haul using SS2 filtering by KikuGie, and it is a 100% hopper lock. So this system uses SS2 or signal strength 2 filters for all of its items, and it has 10 items a slice, and it uses some really cool techniques to hopper lock everything and get the items to where they need to go. So let's get straight into it. These red lines right here are, ignore the ones on the side, I'll explain that in a second, but all of these red lines in the middle here are your hopper locking lines, and these two yellow lines at the bottom are also hopper locking lines, but it's to hopper lock the dropper lines, which will make more sense once I explain it. So at the top here, you got your SS2 filters, and basically you have the packed ice here where your items will come along all the way through here and go just under the slab, just over the hopper, so that way they can keep the velocity of the water stream on packed ice, but also be picked up by the hopper. Now the hopper has this 18111, and you'll have your filter item right here, so you could just go like this, and then that's your filter immediately. The reason this filter I really like is because if you just take your stacks of 21, which are really easy to separate, you can just drag across and then click. So that way you get one in each, and then you just leave the 17 in there. So that's really quite convenient. But getting straight into the filter. So what happens when you have items like this, so basically only this item will get picked up because all of these other slots are filled, and these should never ever make it into your system. Otherwise it could cause some really bad problems. But basically what will happen is this packed ice will get picked up by the system. This comparator will read out that there's a stronger signal, so it will power over this line and power this redstone wire right here, which will get picked up by this redstone repeater, powering this block, which will unpower this redstone torch, unpowering this redstone repeater right here, which will unlock this hopper, allowing items to flow down. Now the same happens on this other side right here, but the comparator reads out to this line right here, and then this redstone will immediately turn off this redstone torch right here, unpowering this line right here, which unpowers this comparator right here, unpowering this hopper right here. Now, all of these hoppers get locked by this hopper locking line right here. So this it takes a signal strength, and the repeater powers this block, so it powers this redstone dust and this redstone dust, which powers this block and this block, so it locks all of these hoppers right here. And you can just see that if I click this, and then you can see on the top left it says enabled, but if I click here, you see all of these are enabled false. So continuing on our way down, you have the exact same thing, pretty much the exact same thing. All of these filters are pretty much the exact same. They might be modified just a little for height, but essentially all of them use the same system. But this hopper, or this line, goes straight down, and you can see that there's two more hopper locking lines. One right here where this repeater just powers this block right here, which powers these two redstone dusts, which power this hopper and this hopper, this hopper and this hopper by powering these droppers. You can see right here, enabled. Now, the same thing happens over here, but this one also doubles as hopper locking for this system. So if this repeater will power that block right here, and if I just phase through, it will power this block right here, which powers this redstone dust, which powers this block. So it locks this one, and these two, alongside locking this one right here because it powers this block, so it powers this repeater, so it locks these two hoppers right here. And continuing all the way down right here, or another thing to note is that this system, what it does is it just takes the items and then brings them all the way straight down into this chest. This one also all the way straight down, but this one now it starts to get a little bit wonkier. So the items will come in through here and go down and get pushed into this dropper, and the items will get pulled out by this hopper and pushed into this chest. How this works, or how this system gets hopper locked, is the redstone torch powers this repeater, and then this repeater powers this block, powering these two dusts, which power that block right there. So it locks this hopper, this hopper, this hopper, this hopper, this hopper, and this hopper. So really efficient use of redstone line here to lock everything. These bottom ones are locked by this block right here, but that's not the main point of this. This line mainly, what its job is to do is lock these two lines right here. And so this line starts to get a little bit funky, because what happens is they'll get picked up into here, go into these lines right here, and there's a dropper here just for powering, because once it gets powered, it'll like power this block, which will power all the neighboring lines, including this dust right here. but basically the lines go through here and go into this chest, and then the last one right here is this line right here, and this is where things start to get a little bit funky, but very also, or in my opinion, also very cool. So this line gets power, or the items coming through here, and the hopper locking comes from up here and down there. The main one from up here is just a simple repeater, powering these two, or this block, which powers this redstone wire, powering this block, so it locks all of these right here. Now, where it starts to get funky is if this gets unlocked, and I'm also just going to remove this so we can see just a tad better. So basically what will happen is, what happens in this system is once this overflows, this will get powered, and the same on the other side. It just takes a slight different path, but the main thing is that it gets overflowed, powers the system, which unpowers each of these redstone torches respectively. This will unpower this block, allowing this this hopper right here to unlock, which allows items to start flowing out from here. But what also it does is triggers or unpowers this note block right here. This note block then causes, or this observer watching this note block detects that, and then powers, and then basically a redstone line coming all the way down, powering this block, which powers this note block, which goes all the way up, powering up here, and then that causes a bit of a clock, because what happens is this powers up, powering this block, powering this note block right here, but at the same time, through this loop right here, this observer right here takes this gets observed, I guess you could say, by these two observers, causing an observer line to go all the way down, causing these two observers to also get powered. And when this one gets powered, it powers this note block, which powers this observer right here, powering this block, powering this dropper. So essentially, what happens is once this gets unpowered, the redstone signal will go up and then go up to here, which will power this dropper. At the same time, it'll power this, which will power this dropper, this observer, which will power this dropper, which powers this note block, powering all the way up to this dropper. So essentially, the item comes down up to here, goes across all these observers, and get popped back into this line right here. And yeah, so that's like how it can manage to be so low without having the filter really out of place, causing for a need for a lot of extra hoppers and just be a huge pain. So what this looks like in reality, I'm just going to take a bunch of blocks here. You can see all the system running, and you can see the items get popped in, and you can see it slowly increasing. And how this works is, one thinking is that, let me just take all of this out. So one thinking is that if you lock this line up here through this right here, you could say that realistically no items are going to come through here, but having all of these droppers kind of weirdly on and off, and having the potential for this system to just, or the observer clock to just be running, could just be a little bit sketchy. So what this system does is have a dropper locking line represented by the yellow. So if you flick this, what will happen is it'll power this redstone, which will basically power these two note blocks right here, as you can see, these two note blocks, causing them to be permanently powered. So that way, if any update comes through here and this observer powers this block, it won't update this note block because it's already powered. So that means none of this clocking or anything like that will work. And yeah, another thing about this observer line is that it's very, very quiet. The only thing that happens is when it gets initially started, it might make noise, or when it's just finishing the cycle, it'll make noise because it's firing empty things. But yeah, that's the main part of the system. Now we can get into the interesting thing is, why in the world is there a bunch of just cakes lying around? And why are there composters? And so you would think these are for hopper locking, but that's not actually the case. These are for lag reducing. What do you mean by that? Well, basically, what happens is that once this cake emits a full signal in the comparator, so it powers it to 14. So it basically means that this stays at 14. And what this does is keeps this signal at 14, even if this power source isn't here. You can see it's 14. And oh no, I didn't mess up that filter. But basically, it keeps this signal strength of 14 regardless if this redstone torch is on or off. So this basically means that Minecraft has to do a lot less processing if it wants to flick this on or off, because the signal stays between 14 and 15. So this is mainly just for reducing lag with these top filters. So if you're constantly not using these filters, it just assists in lag. So that way you don't have to. It basically stops as much lag from the game having to process going from 15 all the way down to 0 and stuff. So you can see that right here. Oh, let me go all the way over here, and I'm just going to use this one, so I follow this line. So unpower this line and unpower this, and you can see right here, if I just take a stack of stuff, this gets unpowered and this goes down to, I'm using the wrong line actually. Sorry about this, but coming all the way over here, putting a stack here, you see that this stays at 14, which doesn't affect this signal at all because it takes from the comparator, but this is just to stop this dust from flickering so much. So yeah. So yeah, going into, or let me just lock these real quick. So overall analysis of the system, it's very cool, especially this bottom bit using the dropper lens. I've never seen that before in a chest hole, and I think that's really unique and cool. But looking at the UI, you can see it's very clean. I also really like this piston right here. It's completely decorational, like, because you can't move this soul sound right here because it has a carpet. But one thing you could do, just as a more artsy thing, is have this soul soil and then make these pistons sticky pistons and put a slab up here, so that way you can have like toggleable soul soil around your whole system, so that way if you like died or something and need to get everything but you don't have your soul speed boots, you don't have to like painfully go through, but at the same time you could just go on the side. But aside from the fact, I just think this looks very cool. But looking at the system as a whole, you have really decent access. Like if I'm on the middle line, I could just barely see this, and then going across I have to go a little bit closer, but I get access to most of the chests from the middle line, if not even further. It's just this last one right here I have to go to the side, but you have really good access. You can't see a lot of the redstone components through the chest, which is another thing to look out for if people care about that. But you can also really easily tell what items are which because there's the block, or you can't really see past here, so you intuitively know that this block or block right here represents this block goes down, this block is up, and then this block is up. While it does have a huge range, but still I think it's pretty clean UI, and I really like this center bit right here. So overall, a really great storage system, and yeah, thank you for watching.